Okay, so let's update our update handler to be able to perform partial updates. So by partial updates, I mean that if I wanted to change only name, if the client only wanted to make a change to name, the client should be able to only provide the name field with its new value. So currently, our API does not allow that. And so it will recognize that name has been changed, but it will tell me that the others, you must provide a value for them. All right, very inconvenient. So let's go about fixing that. All right, let me stop the server. Okay, and let's go back to our update school handler. So API schools, and we have update school handler. All right, so this is where we need to be. So how will we achieve this functionality of only having the client provide what is being changed? All right, which values are being changed? Well, we will focus our attention on the input struct. And so what we're going to do, let me come up here by the way. Let me change this to partial. Okay, so what we're going to do, we will modify the input struct. And so we will modify the input struct so that if there are fields missing, it will be okay. And so to do that, we just have to make one simple change. All right, all we have to do is change the types. So we will no longer be using strings, we will now be using pointers. So we update the input struct to use pointers. All right, why? Because pointers have a default value of nil. Okay, similar to strings having default values of empty string, integers having defaults of 0, and so on. Boolean having false, if I recall, as a default type, default value. Pointers have a default value of nil. And so what we will do, we will check to see if these fields are still nil when we are ready to do our updates. And so if the fields are still nil, so if a field remains nil, then we know that the client did not update it. Okay, so we're going to make these pointers. All right, so pointers to strings are, in our case, it's all strings, so pointers to strings. Slices, I don't need to put a pointer here because it's a pointer by default, right? It's a slice. Okay, so we've saved that. And so now the trick is, okay, we don't need this, by the way. All right, we don't need this anymore. All right. Okay. All right. So after we have our input redefined with pointers, we will call read JSON. We'll give it the input struct, and it will load whatever values that needs to go in there. All right, great. So once we now have our input, we will check the input struct for those updates. Okay, so let's check for updates. Okay, and how do we check for updates? We're gonna do it one at a time. So let's do the first one. If input that name is not nil, which means that the user did provide something, even if that something is the empty string. The user did provide something. All right, of course, this would fail validation, but that's not important right now. All we want to make sure is, did the user provide a value? Okay, so if name is not nil, then for sure the user provided something. All right, and so if that's the case, we can say school.name will be given that new thing, and input that name. By the way, this is a pointer, so to get to the string the user provided, we need to dereference the pointer. Right? Great. And that's all we need to do. And we will do that for all the others. Okay. Let me see if I have the others. No. Okay. So let me just go ahead and let me copy this, and I will paste. All right. You can speed up the video at this point because I will be pretty much doing the same thing for level, for contact, for phone. Okay. So for level, for contact, for phone, email, website address, email, website address, and mode. And I need to do the same, except for mode. Mode is already a slice, which is already a pointer. So I will just say mode, and I will remove the star and just say mode. Okay. Everything else, all other strings, I have to dereference. So input that address, website, all right. So keep in mind that the code is repetitive. So we need to check each field to see if it's no longer a nil value, which is the indicator that the client has provided an update. All right, so we're almost there. Okay, great. So again, make the changes, read in the data as normal, and then we're gonna check to see if there are updates. If they are, we're gonna put those new updates into our school variable. All right, remember we have a school variable. All right, so remember we have a school variable here, right, which has the original data read in from the database. Okay, so whatever changes needs to be made, we've We've done that here. And so we will now have to perform validation on those new changes just to make sure that they are correct and they are valid. And after we've done that, then we simply do the actual update. All right, and once you have done the update, then we can simply write a JSON response. Okay, so that's easy enough. So there's one final thing I need to show you, and it's how do we tell the server that, you know what, we are now accepting partial updates. So to do that, I am going to go to routes.go, and we will replace the put. Okay, remember put was for complete replacement, and so now I'm going to use patch. Okay, patch means that you only need to provide the things that will change. All right, great. So the moment of truth, let's restart our server. Okay, and let's see if we can perform a partial update. So let's press enter. Oops. Yep, we're no longer doing put. And it's telling me, right, not supported. So we have to do a patch. Right? Okay, so notice now that I have my record having avocado tree, and I have version 2. So let's try again. Let's change address. Okay. All right, so notice as far as our program as Go is concerned, when we check, all of these fields except name are still nil. Okay. Now, if I say address and I put an empty string, right, our program will now know that, okay, great, address is no longer nil, so I need to validate. And now it's telling me it must be provided. All right. If I change it to 11 Apple Street, okay, now I see that I have 11 Apple Street and I have version 3. Okay, so that is my partial update, and we can verify this by going into PostgreSQL. Okay. Let me see if I have a shortcut to that. I want to retype it. Yeah. There, maybe I should have retyped it since it would have been quicker. Okay, select all from schools, and we see that we have avocado tree, we have the new address, and we have version 3. Okay, so let me quit this. All right, so we have our partial update functionality working. Once again, the change was not overly complex. All we had to do was go to the handler, move from regular types to pointers, and then we had to check to see if the pointers have become something other than nil. And if they have become non-nil, then we know that there was a change that we need to record. And once we do that, then everything else stays the same. We validate as normal, and we write a response as normal. Okay, so that's it for this lesson. Let me quickly add this. All right, so git commit. So updated the update school handler method to handle partial updates. Great. So git push. Great. And we are done with that. Okay, so in the next lesson, we want to look at preventing a data race when we have multiple clients trying to perform an update. All right, so if you can imagine, you have 10,000 clients all wanting to change some record, right? If you start changing that record, and then what you get is what was originally in the database, but before you're finished, somebody else has made a change to that record, then you have an old record. All right? And so we want to avoid that data race. And remember, a data race simply means that depending on who is fastest, their record gets recorded by the database. And that causes a lot of problems. So we will investigate that idea, and we will look at how to resolve it so that we don't have any data race in our update school handler. I'll see you in that.